with you guys today. DiJonai Carrington, after clotheslining Sophie Cunningham, running into the locker room, screaming, "That's white privilege!" Then tweeting 8/23, threatening Sophie Cunningham and the Indiana Fever. DiJonai Carrington now comes out and clarifies what she means when she says white privilege for the Indiana.
2 minutes left in the first quarter. DiJonai Carrington just slapped the dog shit out of Sophie Cunningham. Sophie pops up. She's obviously upset. DiJonai says, "Try me." And then look at Stephanie White. Look at her face. Look. It's mad as shit. Now, number one, this is obviously a flagrant 2. It just is. By the letter of the law, you gotta call a flagrant 2.
Right after getting tossed from the game, instead of simply walking away and letting the moment fade, DiJonai Carrington chose a different path. She figured the online world was overdue for a lesson. No heartfelt apology, no real explanation, just 2 loaded words straight out of the locker room. White privilege. And here we are, days later, and she's still deep in it, defending that post, walking parts of it back, trying to clarify, and going back and forth with pretty much anyone bold enough to question her. What started as one post has spiraled into a genuine mess, and honestly, it might just be one of the strangest, most talked about reactions we've witnessed from a WNBA player all season long.
Cunningham, otherwise known as MAGA Barbie in the WNBA, is a superstar player. She's one of the most famous female athletes in the world because she stood up for women in women's sports, saying only biological women should be allowed to play in the WNBA. And for that, she is literally risking her life. Check this out. This is what happened to Sophie Cunningham last night when she was clotheslined by a filthy, dirty player for Chicago who has a name that I can't pronounce, or maybe I just refuse to do that. That's my right as an American. But this is a player that has attacked Caitlin Clark, gouged her eye out, that has now bloodied the face of Sophie Cunningham, and as soon as she did this, she tweeted white privilege, meaning she's declaring this is a race crime. Now, if a white woman was doing this to black women, it'd be the #1 story in the world, she'd be banned from the league forever. But somehow black women are allowed to get away with this against white women. And it's white women in the league who make themselves a target by simply standing up for traditional values and common sense.
All season long, Sophie Cunningham has stood out as one of the loudest voices standing up for her Fever teammate Caitlin Clark, speaking up time and again to make the point that the league and its officials simply aren't doing enough to shield Clark from the rough treatment she faces night after night. She's pointed to specific plays, named specific players, and even admitted outright that certain teams have talked amongst themselves in the locker room about wanting to show Clark exactly what the W is really about. Naturally, that kind of honesty doesn't win you many friends around the league, and Cunningham has never bothered to pretend she doesn't already know that.
Goo! That's assault, brother. You can't do that. What the fuck? Is this just the default if you can't think? Or if you just don't want to take accountability for your actions? Oh my god, this league, bro, this league. White privilege while you're wearing a bleach blonde dyed wig. I mean, the fuck? What is privileged about that? You Stone Cold Steve Austin clotheslined her ass. What about that is white privilege? The WNBA stays undefeated. It truly does. They can't get out of their own way.
That backstory matters a lot here, because it helps explain why so many fans, the moment they saw this particular foul, instantly assumed there had to be something deeper going on than just a rough, physical basketball play. After all, Cunningham had already made a name for herself as one of the players unafraid to speak out about how Clark gets treated on the court, and now, ironically, she's the one left bleeding from a forearm to the face. And whether Carrington ever meant to stir up that kind of subtext or not, the moment the ejection was called, the optics of the whole situation basically told their own story.
Beyond concerning at this point how far from the plot we have actually gotten. And when I say the plot, I mean the basketball. How far from the game of basketball we have spiraled. when we're talking about the WNBA, you know, we used to joke, it's like, oh, 0 days without drama in the WNBA. This league is living up to it at a rate and a level of concern that we haven't ever had. With all the
that's going on in the WNBA, DiJonai Carrington tweeted out white privilege from the locker room of a game that she was playing in. Get this, she fouls Sophie Cunningham hard. Sophie Cunningham, obviously a white person, fouls her hard. Flagrant 2, gets ejected, goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now here's the kicker to me. A flagrant 2 has to be contact that can lead to an injury that looks excessive. DiJonai, it was about as excessive as possible. If there was any evidence of there being white privilege, this was not it. What the hell do y'all...
Cunningham isn't alone in sensing this friction. Legendary broadcaster Dick Vitale made headlines earlier this year when he reacted to Clark being ranked just 9th among guards in a league-wide player poll, chalking the result up to nothing but pure jealousy and predicting that players around the league would eventually wake up to how much Clark has boosted them financially. That prediction ended up aging in a strangely fitting way once the Carrington controversy broke. Because here's yet another case of a player closely linked to Clark and Cunningham absorbing real physical punishment. And rather than seeing the league respond with sympathy, we instead see a former teammate openly celebrating it, and a head coach quietly downplaying the aggressor's actions. Watching this same pattern unfold once again, it's hard not to think Vitale might have been right all along.
Across the face, coming down, trying to prevent the layup, but that is just... a hard hit. That's definitely going to be upgraded, I think, to a flagrant 2, Ryan.
I think that is going to be a flagrant 2. There is
Get what you fucking deserve.
And just getting her out of the
Lucky
way.
it wasn't a right hook.
Make no mistake about it, Carrington targeted Cunningham. She targeted her because of her political stances. She targeted Cunningham because of the praises that she keeps receiving. She targeted her with a dirty shot that had absolutely nothing to do with basketball. And then after getting ejected, she runs to the locker room to play the fucking victim card. Like she didn't try to just take off Cunningham's head in 4K. Like we all didn't just watch it happen. That is not competition. That is a grown woman swinging on someone who she disagrees with and then screaming racism when she gets held accountable for it. DiJonai Carrington needs to be held responsible, and I'm not talking about just getting ejected from the game. She deserves a suspension. Maybe she'll think twice next time before she tries to take somebody's fucking head off.
Let's break down what actually went down on the court, because once you watch the replay, there's really nothing complicated about it. Sophie Cunningham was sprinting down the floor on a wide-open fast break, rising up for what looked like an easy, uncontested layup. Trailing the play from behind, DiJonai Carrington made no real attempt to contest the shot and instead caught Cunningham with a forearm across the face and neck. Cunningham crashed hard to the floor, and even though the ball somehow still dropped through the net, nobody was paying attention to the bucket after that. Officials halted the game, headed to the monitor, and upgraded the call to a flagrant 2, which, under WNBA rules, triggers an automatic ejection with no debate necessary. Wind up, impact, follow through, a high risk of injury, and a player caught in a vulnerable position. That's the full checklist for a flagrant 2, and this play hit every single mark on it.
The way Sophie Cunningham came down on her leg, she could have been injured. So they said, yo, get out of here, dog. Get out of here. Then, I don't know if y'all was looking at her lips. She was talking about, try me. Try me. Yo, you already tried Sophie? You got all the samples of Sophie. You talking about try me. What are you talking about? This lady is unhinged right now, man. This is crazy work. And it makes you wonder. It's like, dog, you were the best player for the Sky at this moment. Look how she landed on the leg. Oh, my goodness. Like, you were the best player for the Sky. And you decided to do this? You weren't even thinking about the game. You was thinking about some kind of revenge or something. Somebody sent you on a mission. You were on a mission, dog. I don't know what you had going on here, but DiJonai, this is unacceptable. Disrespectful, disgusting, and I'm glad they got you up out of there. All right?
Fury written across her face, Cunningham shot up immediately and got right in Carrington's space until teammates and officials stepped in to separate them. And here's a detail worth noting, because it reveals how differently this league judges reactions depending on who's involved. Post-game, the crew chief confirmed Cunningham wasn't penalized, calling her response justified given the severity of the hit to her face, meaning even referees validated that her anger was warranted. A photo later surfaced from that flagrant 2, taken around when Carrington posted, white privilege after her ejection. Without commenting on that directly, the truth stands plainly. This was a flagrant 2, period, regardless of race. She essentially clotheslined another player, and the league still has real work to do professionally. What makes Carrington's response so confusing is that officials already called the contact excessive and Cunningham's reaction understandable. So where does race even fit here? The foul wasn't upgraded based on identity. It was upgraded because a player took a hit to the head and neck going up for a shot, a rule applying to everyone equally. The real story isn't the ejection. It's framing that ejection around Cunningham's whiteness while defenders insist Carrington isn't dirty, just consistent. But her track record says otherwise, scratching near Clark's eyes, repeatedly swatting players' heads from behind, sparking fights, even pulling hair mid-fall. That's simply a documented pattern of physical play, nothing about skin color at all. Here's where things spiral into full chaos. The moment people frame this as a race and culture war, while conveniently skipping the fact that Carrington tweeted, "White privilege," tagging Indiana Fever directly. No context, just those two loaded words left for the internet to interpret however it wanted. And naturally, everyone read it the same way, because the timing spoke for itself. Ejected for hitting a white player in the face, then minutes later, that exact phrase appears tagging that exact team. Connecting those dots wasn't hard, and the sports world did it instantly. But looking honestly at what happened, this wasn't racially motivated at all. Calling it a white privilege foul cheapens the term entirely while ignoring basketball's actual rules. She hit Cunningham in the head, drew blood, and never touched the ball, making the accusation feel genuinely misguided. Yes, white players have gotten away with similar fouls before, and so have black players, meaning race simply wasn't a factor in this specific call. That's when Emmanuel Aiko weighed in, breaking down exactly why this was about basketball, not race, since the foul was upgraded purely because of the head contact, blood drawn, and zero contact with the ball. He noted that fouls like this happen across every racial pairing imaginable, and none get slapped with language that heavy, calling the whole reaction ignorant and asinine, essentially catching Carrington reacting emotionally in real time, then trying to rationalize it once backlash hit. Timing this the exact minute of her ejection, tagging the exact team of the player she hit, and dropping "white privilege" was never going to read any other way. And that's where things escalated, because instead of letting the criticism pass, Carrington fired back at Aiko, only deepening the confusion. She insisted she never claimed the foul call itself was white privilege, calling that his assumption, questioning his critical thinking, and pointing to her own education on the subject, claiming she'd never used such a loaded term without solid evidence behind it. Essentially, she's arguing nobody should have connected her post to the ejection. But that raises the obvious question. If it wasn't about the foul, what was it about? She posted it seconds after leaving the court, right after review, right after ejection, tagging the exact team involved. The timing tells its own story, and no talk of critical thinking changes what everyone watched unfold in real time. Aiko pushed back further, noting she can't act like the only clear-eyed observer in the room while giving zero context for an inflammatory phrase like white privilege. Without explanation, the public was left to interpret it themselves, and common sense pointed toward the foul against a white player. He added that if that wasn't her intended meaning, he'd gladly stand corrected. The bigger point worth repeating is that America runs on speaker-oriented communication, meaning the responsibility falls on whoever's talking to be clear and direct, not on the audience to guess their meaning. Aiko clearly wasn't convinced by the walkback either, responding sarcastically that he'd stand corrected if she insisted the two things were unrelated, while emphasizing that the burden was always hers to communicate clearly instead of leaving loaded words open to interpretation. That's really the core issue here, dropping a phrase as heavy as white privilege right after a controversial ejection, tagging the exact team involved, then getting frustrated when people connect the dots isn't people jumping to conclusions. It's people reacting to what was plainly in front of them. Then there's Sydney Carlson, previously on TV suggesting Caitlin Clark was soft for absorbing a hit from Alyssa Thomas, despite having personally benefited from the attention and opportunities Clark brought to the organization before eventually distancing herself and rejoining criticism against her. Stranger still, Carlson, a former Fever teammate who once shared a locker room with Cunningham, publicly celebrated this exact foul, saying she loved it, showing zero concern over a hit that drew blood. That reaction alone speaks volumes about just how divisive the entire Fever situation has become across the league. This isn't just noise from rival fans anymore. It's coming from people who once shared the same locker room. Even Fever head coach Stephanie White, Cunningham's own coach, offered a surprisingly measured response, saying she didn't believe Carrington intentionally targeted the neck, but had no real issue with the hard foul itself, framing it as Carrington simply competing hard and not allowing an easy layup. That's an unusual response from a coach whose player just left the court bleeding. Clark and Cunningham, arguably more than anyone else in the league right now, have driven this unprecedented surge in viewership, ticket sales, and mainstream attention, with networks building schedules around their games and once-empty arenas now selling out. Yet repeatedly this season, instead of protecting that momentum, some players and coaches seem almost resistant to it, whether through hard fouls, pointed comments, or open celebration when something physical happens to either of them. Cunningham herself has faced intense criticism throughout the league, including accusations from fans and public figures labeling her transphobic, making it fair to say she isn't universally popular around the league. And despite all that context, after this ejection, Carrington publicly attributed it to white privilege, a claim critics argue ignores the actual demographics and culture of the WNBA itself, framing the reaction as more of an emotional response dressed up after the fact than a reflection of what genuinely happened on the court. Step back and really think about this, and the dynamic gets genuinely strange. The very players benefiting most from Clark and Cunningham's financial impact on the league, through bigger paychecks, bigger crowds, and bigger TV deals, are in some cases the ones seemingly resenting them the most instead of showing appreciation. Between Carrington's foul, her original post, the extended clash with Aiko, Coulson celebrating the hit, and White softly defending her own player's aggressor, race was never genuinely part of the equation, no matter how much retroactive explaining follows. Carrington can invoke critical thinking and elite education all she wants, but the timing of that original post already spoke for itself long before any clarification arrived, and clarifications rarely erase what people witnessed happen in real time. Once a player commits a clear flagrant and then posts white privilege straight from the locker room, they can't later claim it's unfair that the conversation turned racial. That framing started with her, not the coverage. Right now, the WNBA finds itself caught between celebrating its biggest ratings surge ever and confronting a locker room culture where some of the very players benefiting from that surge seem oddly resistant to the two names driving it. The ejection itself was clean, and the officiating got the call right. It's everything that followed the whistle, the post, the backpedaling, the argument, the celebration from a former teammate, that isn't fading anytime soon, and honestly reveals far more about the league's current state than any single flagrant foul ever could. If this breakdown opened your eyes to what's really going on behind the scenes, drop a comment with your take, hit that like button, and subscribe so you don't miss the next deep dive into this story.